Russia's economy has come back strongly thanks to oil and gas, but what's it going to be like now and in the future? With us is the HKTDC Consultant in Moscow, Leonid Orlov. Leonid, thanks indeed for joining us. Now, looking at really the exports that Hong Kong has to Russia, that went down over 30% in 2009. What's it going to be like in 2010?
Well, I think so. We've been having a very weak year of year 2009, but now, well, the economy started, well, turning up, and we've been seeing a sufficient increase not only in trade with Hong Kong, but the overall performance of Russia's economy. We've got a significantly low inflation, a record-setting low inflation for past 20 years. We've got quite strong currency at the moment, while the currency is growing against both euro and US dollar. Still, the currency mechanism is based on the currency baskets. Well, the Russian ruble is more or less secured by this mechanism. There recently has been quite big progress in the liberalization of the Russian customs legislation and import tariff schedule. So for some particular product categories, you see a specific increase, like jewelry items, like watches and clocks and gifts and premium, which are falling under this product category of jewelry goods, imitation jewelry, and real jewelry items as well. We've been seeing, well, a terrific increase of Russian buyers for the Hong Kong Jewelry Fair last March as well. It also considers, well, this sector of office equipment, IT products, computer equipment, consumer electronics as well.
Russia's going to be looking at increasing IT, increasing the information-based economy by 2020. That's, I think, under the urging of President Medvedev. But what do you think Hong Kong companies can do to actually take part in that?
I think it's more or less like IT-oriented, but on the whole, by the concept of Strategy 2020 announced by Mr. Medvedev in 2008, it is provided that by the year 2020, 15% of Russia's GDP should be leveraged on these, well, innovative and technologies and IT-driven industries. The idea is being unveiled actually in the creation of a special economic zone, which is called Skolkovo. Skolkovo is a very close suburb of Moscow in the northwestern area. And there will be not only specific legislation, but there will be a very liberalized regime for foreign enterprises. There will be practically no taxation for the companies. And the newcomers, the first comers, were a group of high-profile IT business people from the United States. So they were quite impressed, even comparing the taxation structure and the fiscal structure with what they've got at the Silicon Valley.
We had the Russian aluminium maker Rusal forming an IPO here in Hong Kong. But will we see other Russian companies actually taking advantage of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange?
Considering this recent development, we are very frequently communicating with the Hong Kong Stock Exchange nowadays. There was, well, a very significant interview, very interesting interview on Russian TV about, well, Hong Kong Stock Exchange prospects by Mr. Lawrence Fogg. And he said there are quite some companies on the pipeline with the Hong Kong Stock Exchange already, but it's up to the companies to decide when they go for IPO here in Hong Kong. Some companies, they opt for alternative ways of fundraising. It was in papers this week about Petropavlovsk, the company owned by Mr. Peter Hunrow, and quite a successful fundraising alternative for a fixed income for the assets and gold mining in the Russian Far East. We are also quite aware that, well, there are some, companies from various industries of the Russian economy which are on the pipeline for IPO here. That considers logistics, that considers aviation industry, that even considers Russian railways, because they don't make a secret of that.
And indeed, are there more Russian companies setting up in Hong Kong for the China and Asian markets?
You know, for taking use of those financial instruments in Hong Kong, you're supposed to have the China angle or the Asian angle. And it stands to reason that, well, for aluminium, China is world number one consumer of aluminium. That also considers a lot of rare metals, you know, and even logistical services. We are also now talking about the alternative transportation corridors. We are all aware of what's happening in the Red Sea and the piracy and everything. So why not taking use of expanding the Trans-Siberian Why not considering the Nordic route, the so-called Nordic route, which goes all along, well, the Arctic Ocean coast? So there are many ways. There are some misconceptions about, well, Russian business, and Russian economy, but there are already quite some Russian companies which are operating in Hong Kong and employing Hong Kong staff and taking use of the Hong Kong financial infrastructure, Hong Kong business infrastructure. Practically all major Russia's brand owners in consumer electronics and footwear, in garments, in toys, they've got subsidiaries of full-owned companies here in Hong Kong.
And for example, Leonid?
For example, if we are talking about the toys and games, there is, well, one of Russia's largest wholesalers called Gulliver. So Gulliver Trade House, well, they've got long presence here in Hong Kong. We talk about household electrical appliances, then Scarlett. Scarlett is a Russian company selling their products not only in Russia, not only in the former USSR, but recently I saw their products on the shelves of supermarkets in Turkey as well. So it's another growing trend, and we talk also about, well, the companies from the transportation industry. FESCO, Far Eastern Shipping Company, they've got long presence in Hong Kong and they're about to expand here. So there are many things, many examples. It's not like, well, putting out of the sleeve something, but, well, I can estimate the number of Russian companies actively operating in Hong Kong around, well, probably 60, 70.
And that's up from 10 years ago.
A dozen maybe, maybe less than 1 dozen 10 years ago. The rising trend actually started being visible after the crisis of 1998. So by 1999, we've got a growing number of Russian buyers coming for procurement to Hong Kong, and this is just a natural pattern of development. You go procuring, you hire an agent, well, then you start, well, upgrading your operations locally because you are on the costs and savings structure, and, well, you think of hiring own personnel here in Hong Kong, hiring a small office, then upgrading probably.
So can we reasonably say that 2008, 2009 are completely behind us? We're looking forward to a fully recovered Russia.
Well, I think we'd better see by the end of this year, because there are some concerns about the economic performance in Russia in the autumn time. But my feeling is that, well, things are very likely to go positive. We are still reliable on the world price conjuncture on natural resources, but, well, you see what's happening with the world prices on crude oil. They're on the rise. We see very, very robust economic fundamentals with the Russian economy at the moment. It's not the economy of scale in the full meaning of this notion, but it is approaching it.